When the body hurts, when illness settles like a persistent shadow in our lives, a natural question arises: how can I find peace amid so much physical suffering? This deeply human and understandable concern leads us to explore one of the most profound and liberating teachings. It's possible to meditate, find serenity, and cultivate wisdom even when our body causes us pain. Zazen, the silent practice of simply sitting and being, doesn't require a perfect body or flawless health. In fact, it's precisely in moments of greatest physical vulnerability that this practice can reveal its most precious treasures. When we sit to meditate with pain, we're not fighting against a disadvantage. We're opening the door to a deeper understanding of what it means to be truly human. Imagine for a moment a tree growing on a mountainside, battered by constant winds and storms. This tree doesn't become weak from adversity. It develops deeper roots, a stronger trunk, and innate wisdom about how to bend without breaking. Your experience with physical pain can be similar. It's not an obstacle to your spiritual growth, but the very ground where compassion, patience, and understanding can flourish. When we begin practicing Zazen with physical pain, the first thing we discover is that pain has many layers. There's the raw physical sensation, but there's also our relationship to that sensation, the fear it generates, the resistance we create, the stories we tell ourselves about what it means. Zazen teaches us to distinguish between these layers, like someone untangling the threads of a knotted skein. The practice invites us to observe pain without immediately becoming its victim. This doesn't mean denying what we feel or pretending it doesn't exist. On the contrary, it means developing the ability to be present with our experience as it is, without adding unnecessary layers of mental and emotional suffering. When you sit to meditate and pain arises, you can start by simply acknowledging it. Here is the pain. It's part of my experience in this moment. You don't need to judge it as good or bad, as punishment or blessing. It's simply there, just as the sounds from outside are there, just as the sensation of air entering and leaving your lungs is there. Your breath becomes your anchor in these moments. Not a forced or controlled breath, but the natural rhythm of your body that continues faithfully despite everything. Each inhalation can be like a small wave of calm reaching your consciousness. Each exhalation, an opportunity to release the tension that naturally arises around pain. It's important to understand that meditating with physical pain doesn't mean ignoring your body's needs. If you need to change position, do so with awareness and gentleness. If you need to take medication, do so without guilt. Buddhist wisdom is neither rigid nor dogmatic. It's like water finding its natural course, adapting to circumstances without losing its essence. What you'll gradually discover is that your identity is far broader than the sensations your body experiences. There's a part of you that observes the pain, that's aware of it, but that isn't the pain itself. This observing awareness is like the sky containing clouds. Storms may come, but the sky remains infinite and serene. This understanding doesn't come overnight. It's like tending a garden. It requires patience, consistency, and a gentle attitude toward yourself. Some days, the practice will be harder than others. There will be moments when the pain feels overwhelming and meditation seems impossible. In those moments, remember that even the intention to seek peace, even the desire to find serenity amid suffering, is itself a form of practice. Physical pain can teach us about impermanence in a way few experiences can. Sensations constantly change. They intensify and subside, appear in different places, have different qualities. By observing these changes without resistance, we begin to viscerally understand that nothing in our experience is entirely solid or permanent. Far from being discouraging, this understanding can be deeply liberating. When we embrace this perspective, we start relating to our body differently, not as an enemy that betrays us when it falls ill, but as a teacher showing us the fragility and precious nature of life. Every day we can sit, breathe, and be present is a gift, regardless of the sensations accompanying that presence. Practicing Zazen with physical pain also connects us to the universal experience of human suffering. We're not alone in our experience. Millions of beings have faced similar challenges throughout history. This connection can awaken deep compassion in us, not only for ourselves but for all beings who suffer. Our personal pain thus becomes a gateway to understanding the human condition and developing a broader, more loving heart. In the silence of meditation, when the body speaks through pain, an extraordinary opportunity arises to develop what we might call a compassionate friendship with our own experience. This friendship doesn't come from denial or resistance, but from a gentle curiosity toward what we're living. When pain arises during practice, our first reaction is often to contract. It's natural to want to pull away from what's unpleasant. However, Zazen invites us to explore what happens when, instead of contracting, we create space around the pain. Imagine your consciousness as a spacious, luminous room, and the pain as just an object in that room. The room isn't threatened by the object's presence. It simply holds it naturally. This attitude of creating space doesn't mean becoming numb or distant. On the contrary, it's about cultivating a presence loving enough to embrace our entire experience without needing to change it immediately. It's like holding a crying child. You don't need them to stop crying to offer your love and presence. Conscious breathing becomes our most valuable tool in this process. When pain intensifies, we can direct our attention to the gentle rhythm of inhalation and exhalation. This isn't about using breath to escape pain, but finding in it a temporary refuge, a reminder that parts of our experience remain calm and reliable, even when other parts are struggling. A particularly helpful practice is breathing into the pain. This may sound strange at first, but it involves consciously directing your inhalation toward the area of discomfort, as if sending fresh breath and oxygen to that part of your body. As you exhale, imagine releasing any tension or resistance you may be holding around that sensation. This technique isn't meant to magically cure the pain, but to foster a more harmonious relationship with it. Zazen also teaches us about the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is the signal our body sends. Suffering is the story we build around that signal. When we feel pain, our mind immediately starts creating narratives. This will get worse. I can't handle it. What if it never improves? These stories, while understandable, add layers of distress that aren't necessary for the direct experience of the present moment. Observing this difference requires delicate attention, like a botanist studying different plant species in a garden. We can learn to recognize when we're experiencing the raw sensation of pain and when we're adding mental interpretations. This distinction is liberating because it shows us that while we can't always control physical sensations, we do have some influence over our mental and emotional reactions. Regular Zazen practice allows us to develop what we might call active patience with our body. This patience isn't passive resignation, but a form of love that acknowledges healing, both physical and emotional, has its own rhythms, and doesn't always align with our expectations or desires. It's like caring for a plant. We can offer water, light, and nutrients, but we can't force its growth. During meditation, you can experiment with different postures until you find one that best suits your physical condition. Some find relief sitting in a chair with back support. Others prefer lying down if the pain is intense. The perfect posture isn't what matters. It's the attitude of conscious presence you maintain, regardless of how your body is positioned. There will be moments when the pain feels so intense that maintaining any meditative focus seems impossible. In those cases, simply staying present with your breath, even for a few seconds at a time, is a valid and valuable practice. Don't demand deep concentration from yourself. Sometimes, the most authentic practice is one that honestly acknowledges your current limitations. Illness and physical pain can create a sense of isolation. We may feel disconnected from others, as if living in a separate world only we understand. Zazen offers a different perspective. It connects us to the universal experience of human vulnerability. Each time we sit with our pain, we're participating in a practice shared by countless beings throughout history. This connection isn't abstract. You can feel it when you recognize that your experience of pain and your search for peace are part of something much larger than your personal story. In those moments of recognition, the heart naturally expands toward all beings who have suffered, are suffering now, or will suffer in the future. Your personal pain becomes a gateway to universal compassion. It's also important to acknowledge that there will be difficult days when the practice feels impossible or futile. In those moments, remember that the sincere intention to seek peace is itself a form of practice. You don't need to be perfect in your meditation. You only need to be authentic in your search for understanding and healing. Zazen invites us to develop a more mature relationship with our body, one that acknowledges both its fragility and its incredible resilience. Your body, even when sick or in pain, remains the vehicle through which you experience life, love, beauty, and connection. Honoring this reality is a profound form of gratitude that can transform your experience of physical pain. There comes a moment in practicing Zazen with physical pain when something subtly shifts. It's not that the pain disappears, but our perspective widens so that the experience of pain becomes part of something vaster and deeper. It's like being so close to a painting that you only see individual brushstrokes, but stepping back reveals the beauty of the entire composition. This shift in perspective comes from cultivating what we might call equanimity. Equanimity isn't indifference or cold detachment, it's a deep serenity that remains stable even amid storms. It's the quality of consciousness that can observe both pleasure and pain without being completely swept away by either. Imagine a deep lake. Waves may form on the surface due to the wind, but the depths remain perfectly calm. Your consciousness is like that lake. Pain may create ripples on the surface, but there's a depth within you that remains undisturbed. Zazen helps you discover and inhabit that depth. To access this equanimity, it's helpful to practice detached observation of sensations. This means noticing pain as if you were a gentle scientist studying an interesting natural phenomenon. What is this sensation exactly? Is it sharp, dull, throbbing? Is it constant or does it change? Does it have defined edges or is it diffuse? This curious, non-judgmental exploration can radically change your relationship with pain. When we observe sensations this way, we notice something extraordinary. Pain isn't a solid, unchanging mass. It's made up of tiny moments, each slightly different from the last. It's like discovering that what seemed like a solid rock is actually composed of grains of sand in constant motion. This perception of pain's fluid, changing nature can be deeply liberating. The practice also teaches us to recognize the spaces between sensations. Even in moments of intense pain, there are microseconds of pause, brief respites where the sensation eases or shifts in quality. These spaces are like small windows of natural relief that our body constantly offers. Learning to notice and appreciate these moments of respite is a valuable skill we can develop. A particularly helpful technique is making friends with pain. This may sound odd, but it involves cultivating a kind curiosity toward the sensation, as if it were an unexpected visitor in your home. Instead of resisting its presence, you might ask, "What have you come to teach me? What does my body need me to know?" Sometimes pain carries important messages about rest, self-care, or the need to seek medical help. Zazen also invites us to explore the difference between reacting and responding to pain. Reacting is automatic, impulsive, often rooted in fear or resistance. Responding is conscious, considered, and arises from a place of wisdom and compassion. When we feel pain, we can practice creating a small pause before acting, asking ourselves, "What's the wisest, most compassionate thing I can do for myself right now?" Breath remains our most reliable ally in this process. An advanced practice is breathing with pain rather than breathing despite it. This means allowing breath to flow naturally, even when sensations are intense, recognizing that pain and breath can coexist without conflict. It's like learning to walk in the rain without fighting the drops. In the most challenging moments, when pain feels overwhelming, it can be helpful to remember that your ability to be aware of the pain is evidence of something indestructible within you. The consciousness that observes remains intact no matter what it observes. This consciousness is your truest refuge, more reliable than any external circumstance. Regular practice helps us develop what ancient masters called the unmoving mind. This doesn't mean becoming rigid or insensitive, but cultivating an inner stability that remains balanced no matter what happens on the periphery of our experience. It's like becoming the still axis around which all experiences revolve. This stability doesn't develop overnight. It's the fruit of patient, consistent practice. Some days, accessing this calm center will be easier. Other days, it will seem impossible. Both experiences are a natural part of the path. What matters is maintaining the sincere intention to cultivate inner peace, no matter how challenging the circumstances. Physical pain can become our most direct teacher about impermanence. When we're in the midst of a pain crisis, it can feel like it will last forever. But Zazen teaches us to observe how everything constantly changes. The intensity, location, and quality of sensations. Even the most severe pain has moments of fluctuation. This direct observation of impermanence can be more convincing than any theoretical teaching. There's a profound wisdom that emerges when we stop fighting our physical limitations and start working creatively within them. It's like a musician who, after losing some fingers, develops a unique style that leverages their remaining abilities. Your meditative practice can become richer and more authentic precisely because it must adapt to the realities of your body as it is now. Illness and pain can teach us about the precious nature of every moment of well-being. When we've experienced physical suffering, every instance of relief becomes a conscious gift. This deep appreciation for moments of peace can completely transform our experience of life, making us more present and grateful for the small blessings we once took for granted. At the heart of practicing Zazen with physical pain lies a discovery that can profoundly change our understanding of what it means to heal. Healing doesn't always mean the absence of symptoms or a return to a previous state of perfect health. Sometimes, the deepest healing happens when we learn to live fully and meaningfully even in the presence of physical limitations. This understanding expands our definition of well-being. Well-being no longer depends solely on the absence of pain, but on our ability to maintain a harmonious relationship with our entire experience. It's like discovering that happiness doesn't lie in a specific destination we must reach, but in a particular way of walking we can cultivate, no matter the terrain. Zazen reveals that there's a dimension of ourselves that remains untouched, no matter what happens to our physical body. This dimension isn't abstract or philosophical. It's the very consciousness that experiences, knows, and is present. When the body hurts, this consciousness doesn't hurt. When the body is limited, this consciousness remains limitless. Recognizing this distinction isn't escapism. It's a liberating understanding of our true nature. One of the most valuable teachings that emerges from meditating with pain is the cultivation of genuine self-compassion. We're often much harsher with ourselves when we're ill than we would be with a dear friend in the same situation. Zazen invites us to direct toward ourselves the same tenderness and understanding we naturally offer to others who are suffering. Self-compassion isn't self-indulgence or pity. It's an honest, loving acknowledgement of our struggles, accompanied by a sincere desire to ease our own suffering. It's like learning to be our own wisest, most understanding friend, especially in the darkest moments. During practice, you can experiment with directing phrases of loving kindness toward yourself. Simple words like, "May I be at peace with what I feel now," "May I be gentle with myself," or "May I find calm amid this difficulty," can have a profoundly healing effect. These aren't empty affirmations, but sincere intentions we plant in the garden of our consciousness. Physical pain can also be a teacher about interdependence. When we're healthy, we often live with the illusion of being completely independent and self-sufficient. Illness reminds us we're part of a complex web of relationships and dependencies. We depend on the air we breathe, the water we drink, the people who care for us, the medications others have developed. This understanding of our interconnectedness can awaken a deep sense of humility and gratitude. The practice also teaches us about the value of radical acceptance. This isn't passive resignation or defeat, but an active, conscious acknowledgement of reality as it is in this moment. Radical acceptance frees up energy we'd otherwise spend fighting unchangeable facts. And that energy can then be directed toward aspects of our experience we can influence. There's a subtle but important difference between accepting the situation and accepting that the situation can't change. We can fully accept our present pain without giving up hope for future improvement. This distinction allows us to be at peace with what is while remaining open to what could be. In moments of intense pain, It can be helpful to practice what we call refuge breathing. This involves imagining that each inhalation brings calm, strength, and healing from an infinite source of peace beyond our particular circumstances. Each exhalation releases tension, fear, and resistance. This practice connects us to inner resources we may not have known we possessed. Illness can awaken a deeper appreciation for ordinary life. Activities we once considered routine or boring can reveal themselves as everyday miracles. Walking without pain, sleeping deeply, enjoying a meal, feeling the sun on our skin. This conscious appreciation transforms our daily experience into a continuous spiritual practice. Zazen also invites us to explore the difference between curing and healing. Curing refers to resolving physical symptoms. Healing is a broader process that includes the conscious integration of our experience, the emotional and spiritual growth that can arise from adversity, and the development of greater compassion for ourselves and others. Sometimes, the deepest healing happens not despite pain, but through it. Physical suffering can open our hearts in ways comfort never could. It can teach us about our own strength, reveal the depth of our desire for peace, and connect us to the universal experience of human vulnerability. It's important to acknowledge that there will be moments when the practice feels inadequate in the face of intense pain. In those moments, remember that even the desire to find peace, even the search for relief, is itself a form of spiritual practice. You don't need to be perfect in your meditation. You only need to be authentic in your intention to cultivate well-being. Regular Zazen practice can gradually change our relationship with medical uncertainty. Instead of living in constant anxiety about our health's future, we can learn to find stability in the present. Every moment we live consciously, regardless of our physical state, is complete in itself and has intrinsic value. Finally, pain can become a portal to a deeper understanding of unconditional love. When we learn to be present with ourselves during the hardest moments, we develop a capacity for love that doesn't depend on favorable circumstances. This mature, unconditional love becomes a gift we can offer not only to ourselves, but to all beings who cross our path. As we reach this point in our journey, it's time to integrate everything we've explored and consider how Zazen can become a faithful companion throughout the journey with illness and physical pain. A mature practice isn't one that depends on perfect conditions, but one that can flourish precisely amid the imperfections of human life. Integration means consciously weaving the insights of meditative practice into the fabric of our daily lives. It's not about escaping to an idealized world where suffering doesn't exist, but developing a way of being that can remain centered and compassionate even when circumstances are challenging. Integration begins with small moments of awareness throughout the day. Maybe it's a conscious breath while waiting at the doctor's office, or a moment of full presence while taking your morning medication. These seemingly insignificant moments are like seeds that, when planted consistently, can gradually transform your entire experience of living with physical limitations. A particularly valuable practice is creating moments of refuge during the day. These are brief instances when you consciously connect with the inner peace cultivated during formal Zazen. They might last only a few seconds. Closing your eyes when you feel a pang of pain and remembering you're broader than that sensation, or pausing before getting out of bed to give thanks for another day of conscious life. Physical pain can teach us the importance of living moment to moment. When we plan too far into the future, we can feel overwhelmed by the uncertainties of a chronic health condition. When we get lost in the past, we can become trapped in nostalgia for times when our body functioned differently. The present is the only place where we can truly find peace and where we can exercise some degree of conscious choice. The practice also reveals a profound difference between isolation and sacred solitude. Isolation comes from feeling separate and disconnected from the world. Sacred solitude, on the other hand, is a state of inner fullness where we can be alone without feeling abandoned. This sacred solitude can be especially valuable during periods of illness, when we may have less energy for usual social interactions. In this sacred solitude, we can develop a more intimate and honest relationship with ourselves. We can listen more clearly to the authentic needs of our body, mind, and spirit. We can recognize which activities and thoughts truly nourish us and which drain us unnecessarily. This inner clarity becomes a reliable compass for navigating daily decisions about how to best care for ourselves. A mature practice also includes learning to set compassionate boundaries. This means honestly acknowledging our physical limitations without judging them as personal failures. It means communicating our needs to others without guilt or shame. It means saying no to commitments we can't fulfill without sacrificing our well-being, and saying yes to opportunities for rest and self-care we might previously have considered selfish. Zazen teaches us we can be simultaneously vulnerable and strong, limited and limitless, ill and whole. These aren't contradictions we need to resolve, but paradoxes we can learn to inhabit with grace. It's like learning to play beautiful music on an instrument with some broken strings. The music may be different, but it's not necessarily less beautiful. An important dimension of integrated practice is cultivating gratitude that doesn't depend on favorable circumstances. This gratitude doesn't deny the reality of suffering, but acknowledges that even amid difficulties, there are aspects of life worth appreciating. It might be gratitude for the people who care for us, for moments of relief, for the ability to still experience beauty despite pain, or simply for the miracle of consciousness itself. Illness can make us natural teachers of compassion. Our direct experience of suffering allows us to viscerally understand what others may be going through. This understanding can inspire us to extend kindness to others struggling with their own difficulties, creating ripples of compassion that extend beyond our own circumstances. It's also important to recognize that practicing with physical pain has its own natural rhythms. There will be days of greater clarity and days of confusion, periods of serene acceptance, and moments of intense resistance. All these states are a natural part of the process. Wisdom lies not in maintaining a perfect state constantly, but in developing the inner flexibility to work skillfully with whatever state arises. As we mature in practice, we can begin to see our pain as one of our most direct teachers about the reality of impermanence. Every day we live consciously with physical limitations is a lived lesson about the precious, temporary nature of all experiences. This understanding can inspire us to value more deeply every moment of connection, every instance of beauty, every conscious breath. The journey of meditating with physical pain doesn't have a final destination where everything is perfectly resolved. It's a continuous process of deepening our understanding of what it means to be human. It's a path that invites us to expand our definition of what constitutes a full and meaningful life. In the end, what remains is a simple but profound invitation to be exactly who you are, with all your limitations and all your strength, with all your pain and all your capacity to find peace. This invitation doesn't come from an external place. It arises from the deepest wisdom of your own heart, which already knows how to love unconditionally and find refuge amid any storm. Your Zazen practice with physical pain is both an act of self-love and a gift to the world. Every moment you choose conscious presence over resistance, every time you cultivate compassion instead of bitterness, you contribute to the collective healing of humanity. Your personal path to inner peace becomes a beacon of hope for others walking similar paths. If these reflections have touched your heart, I invite you to subscribe to the Pure Zen Life channel to continue this exploration together. Don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Your story could inspire others on their path to peace. Together, we can build a community of support where we share the wisdom of the spiritual journey and find mutual comfort in the most challenging moments of human existence. Namaste.